Can you even imagine standing there, in your wedding dress, bouquet trembling in your hands, only to look down the aisle and see two empty chairs where your parents were supposed to be? It wasn't an emergency. It wasn't an accident. They just didn't show up. And the reason? My own sister's birthday cake. But what happened next? What I uncovered months later was a betrayal so deep, it threatened to unravel not just my family, but everything I thought I knew about love and sacrifice. Hey everyone, my name's Autumn, and I'm 31 years old. I'm a bookkeeper in a quiet little town in Dark County, Ohio. For 6 years, I quietly carried a massive secret, a financial burden that was slowly crushing me. I was paying my parents' mortgage every single month, while my sister, Shelby, got all the praise, all the attention, all the credit. And this is a story of what happened when their choice to go to a birthday party over my wedding finally cracked the carefully constructed facade, revealing a lie that cost me everything and ultimately gave me my life back. If you've ever felt like you've been lifting someone else's weight, only for them to turn around and stab you in the back, then this one's for you. Let me take you back a bit. I've been a bookkeeper at Henderson and associate CPA for 9 years. I started young, straight out of college, learning from Ed Henderson, a man who could tell you everything about a person just by looking at their ledger. He taught me that numbers don't lie. I love that. I handle the books for dozens of local businesses, from auto shops to churches, and I knew who was thriving and who was just barely clinging on. The numbers, they were always honest. My own life was carefully planned. I saved for 7 years to buy my small 2-bedroom house. White siding, a little yard, and a porch swing that my incredible boyfriend, Wade, installed the weekend after our 3rd date. Wade is a general contractor. He built that porch swing with his own hands, just like he builds everything else in his life, with integrity and hard work. He proposed right there on that swing, holding out a ring he'd hammered himself from salvaged copper pipe. No grand gestures, just quiet certainty. I built it, he said. If you want it, I want it. And I did. Wade's books were clean, just like him. No debt, no games. That's the man I married. My family, though, they were a different kind of math. My dad, Roger, worked at the parts plant for 30 years, just like his father. It was a Wells family tradition. Feed your family with your hands, no complaints. But at 50, his back gave out. Permanent disability. The checks covered groceries and utilities, but not the mortgage, not the insurance, not the property taxes. I was 25, fresh into my career, when Dad called me one Tuesday evening. He didn't ask how I was. He just said, I need you to set up an auto pay from your account for the mortgage, $800 a month, and don't tell your mother. I could have said no. I could have asked why. But instead, that night I just did it. And soon, the insurance premiums and property taxes followed. He never said thank you. Not once in 6 years. The only time he even acknowledged it was when Wade helped me carry groceries into their house. Dad just watched Wade, a younger, stronger man who built things with his hands, and his jaw went tight. I think he saw everything he'd lost. My mom, Connie, carries a different kind of pain. She lost her own mother in a car accident when she was 16. Never got to say goodbye. That loss carved a hole in her that she spent 43 years trying to fill with proximity. For her, if you're close, you love her. If you're far, you've abandoned her. And then there's Shelby, my younger sister. She lived 5 minutes from my parents, always there. Every call, every visit, Mom would say, Shelby was here. Shelby was here with Paisley. Shelby brought pie. I could write a check for $800 a month and still lose to a blueberry pie. That's the math of my family. When I bought my own house 25 minutes away, Mom didn't say congratulations. She said, that's pretty far. When I brought Wade to dinner, she spent the entire evening talking to Shelby about Paisley's preschool. I don't think she disliked me. I think she was terrified of me. Every step towards independence, every sign that I was building a life that didn't orbit her kitchen table, she saw as abandonment. And for Connie, abandonment meant disappearing forever. Wade and I planned a simple wedding. Grace Lutheran Church, 60 guests, a reception at the VFW Hall. We paid for every single cent ourselves. No registry, no fancy dresses. Just us, and the people we cared about. I called my parents in August to confirm the date. October 12th, Connie said, we'll be there, honey. Roger nodded. Shelby knew the date. She'd known since June when I sent the save the dates I'd printed at the office. But on September 15th, she posted on Facebook, "My 26th birthday bash, October 12th. All-day party at our place." My heart dropped. I called her. "Shelby, that's my wedding day." She just said, "I know, but it's my birthday. I have it every year." I pleaded with her. "I'm only getting married once." She just hung up. I waited for my parents to intervene. I waited for Mom to tell Shelby to move the party, for Dad to explain that a wedding outranks a barbecue. But the call never came. The silence from their house was louder than anything Shelby could have said. October 12th. I put on my tea-length white dress, a $62 consignment shop find, in the church fellowship hall. Loretta Barrett, Wade's mom, zipped me up and tucked lavender in my hair. "You look like a bride," she said. But all I felt was the crushing weight of those two empty chairs waiting in the front row. At 11 a.m., the organ played. Wade stood at the altar, looking so handsome in a borrowed suit. And Loretta, a 62-year-old widow who'd raised her son alone, took my arm and walked me down the aisle. "You deserve this walk, sweetheart," she whispered. She said it like it was obvious, like any mother would do it. The ceremony was beautiful. Wade's hand was steady when he held mine. His voice cracked once on the word always. We kissed. We were married. But even as we exchanged vows, my eyes kept drifting to those two empty seats, with their white ribbons tied to the backs. After the ceremony, I sat in the passenger seat of Wade's truck in the parking lot and called my mom. "Mom, where are you?" I could hear party noises, music, Paisley laughing in the background. "Oh, honey," she said. "It's Shelby's birthday. We couldn't miss her party. Shelby's got cake and everything." Then Dad took the phone. His voice was flat, devoid of emotion. "You don't need us. You've got Wade now." I set the phone on the dashboard, my hand shaking. Wade looked at me, a question in his eyes. "They chose cake," I choked out. The next morning, the house smelled faintly of a leftover wedding cake Loretta had thoughtfully wrapped. Wade was in the shower. I sat at the kitchen table, my coffee gone cold, staring at my banking app. 3 recurring payments, the ones I'd set up 6 years ago. Mortgage, insurance, property taxes, $1,320 a month. More than 15% of my take-home pay for 6 years. The total, over $80,000. I, the bookkeeper, knew the exact cost of my silence. With 3 taps, in 6 seconds, I canceled them all. I waited for the familiar clench of guilt, the knot in my stomach I always felt when thinking about Dad's back or Mom's worried eyes. It didn't come. Instead, there was this overwhelming, almost unbearable lightness. Like I'd finally put down a bag of gravel I'd been carrying for so long, I'd forgotten it wasn't part of me. 3 weeks later, Dad called. It was a Tuesday. His tone was casual, confused, like he'd found a parking ticket on someone else's car. "Autumn," he said. "The bank called about the mortgage. Something's wrong with the payment." "I stopped paying it, Dad." The silence that followed was chilling. Not comfortable silence, but the kind where you can almost hear someone's breathing change. "What do you mean you stopped?" "I mean I stopped. The auto pay, the mortgage, the insurance, the property taxes. All of it. You can't just, that's our house." "It's your house, Dad. It's always been your house. I was just the one paying for it." More silence. Then his voice shifted, lower, rougher, with a raw crack running through it like water under ice. He used the exact same words he'd spoken on my wedding day. "You don't need us. You've got Wade now." But this time, it wasn't a dismissal. It was a desperate rope he was throwing, hoping I'd catch it and pull him back to the shore where his daughter still paid his bills, and he never had to say thank you. I didn't catch it. "That's what you said on my wedding day, Dad. Right before you hung up to go eat birthday cake." He didn't respond. I heard Mom's voice in the background. "Roger, who's on the phone?" And then, the line went dead. I put my phone down. Shelby, meanwhile, went to work. Not at the salon, but at building a narrative. Within 2 weeks, she told half the county that I'd abandoned my parents. I heard it at the gas station, at the post office, even from Doug, the pharmacist who filled Dad's gabapentin. Doug had been filling Dad's prescriptions for 3 years. He knew who picked it up. He knew who paid the difference. He looked at me with an expression that said, "This puzzle piece doesn't fit the picture Shelby's painting." I just told him, "I appreciate you asking, Doug. I didn't correct the record. A bookkeeper learns early. The numbers will speak for themselves. You just have to wait until someone reads the ledger. Shelby texted me that Friday. You're the one who abandoned us. Don't pretend like you're the victim here. I read it, then put the phone down. Wade turned off the lamp. In the dark, I listened to our house settling. The furnace kicking on, the refrigerator humming. Sounds a house makes when someone is actually there paying the electric bill, keeping the lights on. My parents' house would be making different sounds soon. November. The first mortgage payment missed. A white envelope, red type. The kind you can't mistake for a credit card offer. Dad shoved it in his glove box. Then the insurance lapsed. Dad's gabapentin went from a $15 copay to $180. Doug told me Dad stood at the counter, stared at the price, and walked out without it. Then the property taxes went delinquent. Mom found the county notice before Dad could intercept it. She called me. Daddy says there's a problem with the house. Something about taxes. Do you know anything about it? She still had no idea I'd been paying for 6 years. Dad's pride had held that secret like a fist around a nail. You should ask Dad, Mom. He says he's handling it. She paused. I could hear the Dollar General break room behind her. Autumn, are you still upset about the wedding? I closed my eyes. I'm not upset, Mom. I'm done. She didn't ask what I meant by done. Maybe she was afraid to. With $1,320 a month back in my pocket, my life started changing. Not dramatically. I'm a bookkeeper. Dramatic isn't in my vocabulary. But Wade and I refinished the spare bedroom, replaced the leaky kitchen faucet, put new tires on my car. Small, normal things. Things I couldn't afford when 15% of my income was going to a house I didn't live in, for people who didn't come to my wedding. That December, Ed Henderson called me into his office. He closed the door. This was only for firing or promotion. Since it was just him and me, I figured firing wasn't likely. I'm retiring in 18 months, he said. I want you to buy the practice. He slid a folder across the desk. Appraisal, client list, SBA loan terms. It was more than reasonable. I'd been running that office for 3 years anyway. He told me to think about it. I already knew my answer. That same week, Loretta sat me down over chess pie. You two never had a proper reception, she said. Let me throw one. Spring, VFW Hall, the whole town. Wade said yes before I even finished chewing. Then came January. I was at the county recorder's office doing a title search for a client. Out of professional curiosity, I typed in my parents' address. Mortgage record first, the one I'd been paying. Normal. But underneath, a second line. Hellick. Home equity line of credit. Opened 8 months ago. $25,000. I read it twice. Then I read the cosigners. Roger Wells. Derek Marsh. My father and my brother-in-law. 8 months ago. That was February. 2 months before I sent the save the dates. 4 months before Shelby posted her birthday party. I printed the record, folded it, and walked to my car. Sat there, engine off, heater dying. A hellick means you borrow against the value you've built in your house. Equity. The word itself comes from fair, from equal. There was nothing equal about this. Roger had used the house I'd been paying the mortgage on for 6 years, as collateral. He'd pledged my payments, my money, my 6 years of silence, so that Derek Marsh could co-sign a loan. And I was never supposed to know. I called Carol Fenton at the bank, a loan officer who bowled on Loretta's league. She knew everyone's business. Carol, I'm looking at a hellick filed on my parents' property. Can you confirm the co-signers? A pause, then her keyboard clicks. Roger Wells and Derek Marsh, opened February of last year. What was the stated purpose? Another pause. Vehicle purchase and business equipment. Derek's silver Ford F-150. Shelby's new hydraulic salon chairs. Upgrading her space. Bought with equity from a house that had equity only because I had been making $800 mortgage payments every month for 6 years. My $57,600 in mortgage payments alone, plus insurance, plus taxes, over $80,000 total. And my father had taken the house those payments protected, walked into a bank, and leveraged it so my sister's husband could buy a truck and my sister could furnish her salon. My $57,600, used as a down payment on my sister's life. I folded the printout, put it in my purse, and drove to work. I had client payroll to run. The numbers in the hellick could wait. Numbers always wait. They're patient like that. When I got home, Wade was in the garage, sanding a cabinet door. I handed him the printout without a word. He read it, set it on the workbench, pulled off his glasses. Your dad signed this with Derek. He looked at the paper again, as if it might say something different. It didn't. That's the house you've been paying for. And they used it to buy Derek a truck and Shell's salon equipment. Wade put both hands flat on the workbench. His knuckles were scarred from a decade of construction. Those hands built our porch, our bedroom floor. He didn't hit the bench. He didn't raise his voice. He just looked at the printout and said, "What do you want to do?" I'd thought about it the entire drive home. I could call Dad, confront him, watch him stammer through excuses about Shelby needing help, about Derek's bad credit, about it being his house. All true, all beside the point. "Nothing," I said. "I'm not going to do anything." Wade looked at me. "You're not." "No. The truth will come out. It always does when there's paper. I am a bookkeeper. I believe in documentation. I believe every transaction leaves a trail. Every lie has a ledger. And every secret eventually shows up as a line item someone didn't expect. I didn't need revenge. I needed patience and a filing cabinet. Thanksgiving, Wade and I ate at Loretta's. Turkey, mashed potatoes, all homemade. Loretta set 3 places, lit candles, and said grace. It was quiet and warm, exactly what Thanksgiving should be. Later, I saw Shelby's photos on Facebook. Grateful for family who shows up. She tagged everyone, except me. The next Monday, Linda Crowell from Curves texted me. "Shelby says you refused to come to Thanksgiving. Your mom cried." I put my phone in the desk drawer. That Tuesday, I stopped at the Dollar General. Connie was working the register. We hadn't spoken since the tax call. She scanned my items without looking up, until the last barcode. Then she raised her eyes. Her voice was small, hurt. "Why didn't you come Thursday? Why didn't you come October 12th? She didn't answer. She hit the total button. Our fingers brushed when she gave me my change. Neither of us acknowledged it. I walked out. The fluorescent Dollar General sign buzzed above me. Everything in that store was cheap, including the silence between my mother and me. December. Ed leaned back in his chair, took off his bifocals. "How's your family, Autumn?" I told him some of it. The wedding. The party. The canceled payments. The silence. He listened, like a CPA listening to a client during a bad year. No interruption, just steady attention to the numbers. "I've been doing taxes in this county for 35 years, he said. "You know what I've learned? The people who pay the bills, quietly, are never the ones who get thanked. But they're always the ones who get blamed when the bills stop." He tapped the folder for the practice sale. "You're going to own this place, Autumn. That's what matters. The other stuff, the family, the house, the sister who talks too much, that'll sort itself out. Everyone sees everything eventually. That's the curse and the blessing of a place like this." January. The county mailed a tax lien notice to my parents' address. $2,160 due. If unpaid, the county could begin proceedings. The Hellick was in trouble too. Carol Fenton told Loretta, who told Wade, who told me, that 2 payments had been missed. Foreclosure was on the table. Not the mortgage foreclosure, the Hellick foreclosure. The house I paid for, that Roger had borrowed against, could be seized because Derek Marsh couldn't make payments on a loan he'd co-signed to buy a truck. Roger called me on a Sunday. Not the casual, confused call from October. A different call. A man's voice when the walls are closing in. "Autumn, I need your help. The bank is talking about taking the house. The house you used as collateral for Derek's truck." Silence. "So long you could count heartbeats. How do you know about that?" "I'm a bookkeeper, Dad. It's on public record. That was Shelby needed. He couldn't finish. I finished it for him. You paid my mortgage for 6 years. 6 years, Dad. $800 a month. I paid your insurance. I paid your taxes. And you took the house my money was holding up, and put it on the line so Derek could buy a Ford F-150 and Shelby could get salon chairs." I heard his breathing. Shallow. The breathing of a man whose back hurts and whose pride hurts worse. "I'm sorry, Dad. I can't help you with this one." I hung up. It was the first time. The phone weighed nothing. Shelby showed up at my house on a Tuesday in February. Didn't call, didn't text. Just pulled up in Derek's silver F-150 and knocked like she owned the place. Wade opened the door. She pushed past him. I need to talk to my sister. I was at the kitchen table, working on W2S. I didn't stand up. You're destroying this family, Autumn. I set my pencil down. Shelby, I stopped paying bills that were never mine to begin with. Mom and Dad need you. Mom and Dad needed me on October 12th. They chose cake. Her face went crimson. Not angry red, but the red of someone hearing a truth they've been running from. That's not fair. It was my birthday, and it was my wedding. You don't understand, she said, her voice cracking. You have everything, Autumn. The job, the husband, the house. All I had was being close to Mom and Dad. That was mine. I could have felt something in that moment. A softer person might have. But I had a question and I asked it. Did you know Dad used the house to borrow money for you and Derek? The red drained from her face. She went pale, like a spreadsheet goes blank when you delete the wrong formula. Everything holding her structure together just vanished. The answer was written across her face in a font even a non-bookkeeper could read. She'd known about the Helic. She'd known whose payments built the equity Roger pledged. And she'd taken the money anyway. Get out of my house, Shelby. She left. The F-150's tires crunched on the gravel. I picked up my pencil. Hank Pryor, my parents' 68-year-old neighbor, came in for his taxes. He sat across my desk, handed me his documents, then leaned back. I know it's none of my business, he said, but I see things from my porch. Like who mows your parents' lawn every other Saturday. Like who carries groceries to their kitchen door. Like who showed up at 2 a.m. last January when their pipe burst. It wasn't Shelby. He looked at me over his reading glasses. Your daddy sits on that porch and watches you work, Autumn. I don't think he knows how to say thank you, but he watches. Hank knew. He was a witness. March. Loretta Barrett threw herself into the reception planning like a general. 200 invitations. Cream-colored cardstock. Delayed reception. Celebrating the marriage of Autumn and Wade Barrett. VFW Post 7262. Saturday, April 12th, 5 p.m. Potluck. She mailed them to everyone. Church members, clients, Wade's crew, Dollar General employees. The consignment shop owner where I bought my dress. 200 invitations to 200 households in a county where news traveled faster than the mail. She did not send one to Roger and Connie. I'd asked her not to. You sure? She'd said. I'm sure, I replied. They'll hear about it anyway. The whole county will. I bought a new dress. Not the original $62 one. That one hung in my closet with a memory attached I didn't want to wear again. This one was $89. White. Simple with a lace hem. This was the dress my parents would see me in for the first time if they came. Wade spent 3 weekends at the VFW hall, sanding floors, patching drywall, repainting. By April, the hall looked better than it had in years. 200 chairs, not one of them reserved. Connie called on a Wednesday evening. I was washing dishes. Autumn, she said. I heard about the reception. From who? Everyone. The whole town's talking about it. Silence. The kitchen faucet dripped. Can I come? I turned off the water, leaned against the counter. You chose Shelby's birthday over my wedding, Mom. I know. I did. She started crying. Not Shelby's loud theatrical sobs. Quiet crying. The kind that leaks out of someone who's been holding it too long. Because I was scared you were leaving. And Shelby was right there. I closed my eyes. My mother lost her mother at 16. She'd spent 43 years building a fortress against the fear of people disappearing. Shelby was inside the fortress. I was on the other side of the wall, knocking with a checkbook in my hand, and Connie couldn't hear me over her own fear. You're not invited, Mom. But you're not banned either. The VFW is a public building. What does that mean? It means if you show up knowing what you chose. And so will everyone else in that room. She was quiet for a long time. Okay, she finally said. Okay. Shelby called 4 days later. Her voice was different. Flat. Tired. The voice underneath the voice. I know you hate me. I don't hate you, Shelby. She paused. I knew about the loan. I knew Dad was using the house, and I let him because... Her voice cracked. Not a dramatic crack, a structural one. Because I needed something to work. Just one thing. The salon, the truck, something after Lily. Lily. Shelby's second daughter. 32 weeks along. Born still 2 years ago. I'd driven there that night, sat in the hallway, brought a blanket I'd bought at the consignment shop, pink, soft, for a newborn who never came home. Shelby never acknowledged it, but the nurses told me she held it. You don't know what it's like to lose everything on a day that was supposed to be happy. I stood in my kitchen and listened to my sister grieve. And I did know. I knew what it was like to stand in a white dress on a day that was supposed to be the happiest of my life and look at 2 empty chairs. I knew exactly what it felt like to lose something on a day that was supposed to be about joy. I'm sorry about Lily, Shelby. I always have been. But that doesn't give you the right to erase me. She hung up. The night before the reception, I sat at my kitchen table with 6 years of bank statements spread out, the auto-pay records, the canceled checks, the property tax receipts, and the Hellick printout from the county recorder's office, with Roger Wells and Derek Marsh typed in black ink. I looked at all of it. Then I put it in a folder. Put the folder in my desk drawer. I wasn't bringing any of it to the VFW. A bookkeeper knows the difference between evidence and testimony. Evidence sits in a file. Testimony walks through the door and speaks. Carol Fenton would be there. Hank Pryor, Ed Henderson, Doug the pharmacist, half the county. These people didn't need my bank statements. They'd been watching for years. Each of them held a piece of the truth. A payment processed. A prescription picked up. A lawn mowed at dawn. And Shelby's 6 months of lies had been pressing down on those pieces like a thumb on a scale. I tried on the new dress. Stood in front of the mirror. White lace at the hem. Lavender pinned in my hair, just like Loretta had done it. I looked like a bride. 6 months late, but a bride. Wade came in from the garage. You ready? He asked. I smoothed the dress. I've been ready for 6 months. He just nodded. No speech, no pep talk. Just a nod from a man who builds things and knows when the foundation is solid. VFW Post 7262. 5 o'clock on a Saturday in April. The potluck tables groaned under casseroles, fried chicken, pies, and a sheet cake that said Wade in Autumn in blue frosting. Country music played. By 5:15, 180 people were inside. Ed Henderson, Doug, Hank Pryor, Carol Fenton. Loretta, greeting everyone like she was running for office. At 5:20, I walked in my white dress, lavender in my hair. Wade was beside me in his blue suit. The room turned. People clapped. Someone whistled. For 30 minutes, it was everything a reception should be. I shook hands, hugged old friends, ate a deviled egg. Wade danced with Loretta to a Patsy Cline song. My chest felt open, like a window. Then, at 5:30, the front door swung open. Roger, Connie, Shelby, Derek, and Paisley walked in. 180 pairs of eyes shifted. The room didn't go silent all at once. It went quiet in patches, like a field where the crickets stop, section by section, when something walks through the grass. They stood in the doorway and scanned the room until they found me. Connie saw the dress first. She saw me in white for the first time, 6 months after my wedding. Her hand flew to her mouth. The sound she made was a small gasp that didn't quite become a word. I didn't walk towards them. I stayed where I was, next to Wade, next to Loretta, next to the people who had shown up. Roger approached. His face was tight, eyes red around the edges, not from crying, but from sleeplessness. Autumn, we need to talk. Not now, Dad. This is a party. The bank. They're going to take the house. He said it loud enough. Not shouting, just the desperate volume of a man whose hearing was going and whose pride had already gone. 180 people heard him. Loretta Barrett looked at Roger with an expression I'd only ever seen her wear at her husband's funeral, pity and disgust braided together. Shelby stepped around Roger. Her heels clicked on the VFW floor. She pointed at me, her face flushed, jaw set. This is what you do, Autumn. Throw a party while Mom and Dad are about to lose their house. The room went dead. Not quiet. Dead. 180 people holding forks and napkins, frozen mid-bite. You cut them off. You married some contractor and forgot where you came from. Hank Pryor slowly set his plate of pie on the nearest table. Now hold on a minute. Shelby spun towards him. This is family business. Family business. Hank's voice was level. I've been living next door to your parents for 30 years. I've seen who mows their lawn, who carries groceries up those porch steps, who paid the plumber at 2 a.m. in January when that basement pipe burst. He looked at Shelby. It wasn't you. Carol Fenton stood up from her table. And I can tell you who's been paying their mortgage for 6 years, because I processed the payments at the bank. Doug from Rite Aid cleared his throat. I can tell you who picks up Roger's prescriptions every month and who pays the difference when the insurance lapses and the price goes to full retail. One by one. 3 people, 3 pieces. The puzzle Shelby had spent 6 months scrambling was assembling itself in front of 180 witnesses. Ed Henderson rose from his chair. He wasn't a man for scenes. He liked columns of numbers. But he'd been my boss for 9 years. Autumn Wells, he said, not loudly, has been the most reliable, most ethical professional I've worked with in 35 years. She doesn't talk about what she does for her family. She just does it. Carol Fenton was still standing. She looked at Shelby, then Roger, then back at the room. I'd like to add something. There's a home equity line of credit on that property. $25,000. Co-signed by Roger Wells and Derek Marsh. Filed for vehicle purchase and business equipment. The silence changed texture. It hardened. Derek took a half-step backward, his hand tightening on Paisley's leg. Shelby's mouth opened. Connie turned to Roger. Her face was white. You borrowed against the house? Roger looked at the floor. The floor of a VFW hall in a town where everyone knew his name, and his secret was now lying on the ground like a dropped plate. I spoke, calm, level, the voice I use when reading a balance sheet to a client who doesn't want to hear what the numbers say. Mom, I paid your mortgage for 6 years. $800 a month. Dad asked me to, and I did. I also pay the health insurance and the property taxes. You didn't know because Dad didn't want you to. Connie looked at Roger. Is that true? Roger nodded. Once. I turned back to my mother. And on October 12th, when I stood in a church in a white dress, waiting for you, you told me. I paused. The room held its breath. We couldn't miss her party. Shelby tried one last time. She stood, mascara tracking down her cheeks, and threw her hand toward me. She's making herself the victim. She always does this. Loretta Barrett, standing right next to me, didn't move. She just turned her head and looked at Shelby with the same steady gaze she'd given me in the church hallway. Honey, Loretta said, the woman in the white dress paid for the roof over your head. She didn't even get a thank you. She got 2 empty chairs at her wedding. Shelby sat back down. Derek pulled Paisley closer. Roger took a step towards me. I was ashamed. He looked at me, 61 years old, flannel shirt ironed by a wife who didn't know her daughter had been carrying them both. Hands that used to stamp brake rotors 10 hours a day. You told me I didn't need you. You said I had Wade now. You don't need us. You've got Wade now. Do you remember saying that? His jaw worked. I remember. I needed you to walk me down the aisle instead. Loretta did it. And she didn't have to. She chose to. My voice didn't rise. It didn't crack. I spoke with the clarity of a bookkeeper delivering hard truths. I didn't stop helping because I stopped caring. I stopped helping because you taught me that caring didn't count. Shelby stood one last time. Her whole body shook. You always had everything and I had nothing. Then she broke. She sat down hard, covered her face with both hands, and sobbed in front of 180 people who now knew exactly who had everything and who had nothing. I turned to the room, not to my family, but to the people who'd come tonight with casseroles and pies and the simple expectation of a party. Thank you all for being here. This was supposed to be a celebration, and it still is. I took Wade's hand. His grip was warm, calloused, steady. The hand of a man who builds things that don't fall down. 6 months ago, I married this man in a church with 2 empty chairs in the front row. Tonight, every chair in this room is full. And that's enough. The applause started slowly. Ed Henderson, then Loretta, then Hank Pryor. Then it spread, until 180 people were on their feet, and the bunting trembled overhead. Loretta turned the music back on. The potluck line reopened. People filled their plates. Conversations resumed, quietly at first, then at normal volume. The way a town decides, collectively, that the hard part is over and the casserole is getting cold. Wade pulled me onto the floor. We danced. Our first dance in front of anyone. The one we should have had 6 months ago, in the same hall. Roger and Connie sat at a table near the wall. Shelby had taken Paisley to the bathroom. Derek sat alone, staring at his hands. The reception went on without them. Parties tend to do that, Roger called a week later. Not the panicked call, not the angry call. A different kind of call. I applied to refinance the helot by myself, without Derek, he said. Good, I replied. I talked to the disability office about increasing my hours. Odd jobs. I can do light carpentry if I wear the brace. Okay. I'm sorry, he said. I should have been at that church. I didn't say it was okay. It wasn't okay. It might never be okay. I know, Dad. Connie wrote a letter. 3 pages, front and back, in the careful cursive she'd learned in the same county school I'd attended. I read it once, at my desk after hours. Then I folded it, put it in my desk drawer next to the helot printout, and closed the drawer. Some things need time before you read them again. Shelby didn't call, didn't text, didn't post anything on Facebook. The silence was strange, louder in some ways than the lies had been. But it was honest silence, and that was better. Ed Henderson approved my SBA loan in May. Henderson and Associates became Wells Tax and Bookkeeping. The new sign went up on Main Street. Looks right, Ed said. I didn't resume the mortgage payments. Roger handled it. Disability check, odd jobs, the brace on his back, and a stubbornness that, for once, was pointed in a useful direction. Barely, but he handled it. I did start picking up his prescriptions again. Not because he asked. Because I'm a bookkeeper, and a 61-year-old man with a herniated disc who isn't taking his gabapentin is a number that doesn't add up. Sunday dinners started at our house. Loretta came every week. Roger and Connie came twice a month. Awkward at first, quiet. The kind of dinners where the sound of forks on plates does most of the talking. Shelby came once with Paisley. Sat at the far end of the table. Passed the salt when asked. I sat at the head of a table I'd paid for, in a house I'd earned, with people who were learning, slowly, imperfectly, what it looked like when the person they'd ignored set the terms. The chairs at that table were never empty again. The people who ignore your sacrifices don't get to define your worth. But you get to decide how long you keep sacrificing in silence. This story, these 2 empty chairs, the $80,000, and that shocking loan document, it all changed my life. If you've ever stopped carrying weight for people who never noticed you were lifting it, tell me about it in the comments below. I really want to hear your stories. What did you do? And what would you have done in my place? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories like this one.